YouTube. In this video I'm going to demonstrate how to add and subtract with complex numbers, recalling that complex numbers really are just the sum of some real and imaginary numbers. So let's say I have some number that's complex. We say a plus bi. It is its own number. And when I add it to another complex number, c plus di, we say, well, how would I do this? The nice thing about adding and subtracting complex numbers is, even though I is not a variable, you can kind of think of it as one, and we'll just combine like terms. So you'll notice here that we get a plus c would be the new real part of this number, and then b plus d I would be the new imaginary part. So we say, in other words, it says you can add complex numbers by adding their real parts and adding their imaginary parts and expressing the sum as some new complex number. And I want to point this out. We do the same thing when subtracting complex numbers. We would take the first real part minus the second real part to get the new real part, whereas we take the first imaginary part minus the second imaginary part to get the new imaginary part. So let's just look at a couple of examples here. I'll show you how easily it can be done to evaluate these. But we have some number 5 minus 2i that's being added to a different complex number, 3 plus 3i. And we say, well, since I'm adding this, really I don't need the parentheses any longer. So we get 5 minus 2i plus 3 plus 3i. And we can see that as far as like terms go, we say the new real part would be the sum of 5 and 3. So we would get some 8. And then we'd say negative 2 and positive 3 would give us a positive 1. So we say 8 plus I. And we would write this as some complex number in standard form. Also, letter B here, you notice that we have a difference. I'm going to rewrite this just so that I know that you can all see this a little bit better. I have minus 12 minus I. And so the first thing I'm actually inclined to do is rewrite this as a sum of the opposite of these things, okay? So adding the opposite or distributing the negative through. So now that I get something that looks like a sum, I can treat this the same way that I treated, excuse me, the last problem on the left there. So we have just a 12 here, and we say plus I. So adding these up, we say combining like terms, a negative 12 and a positive 2 would give us a negative 10 as a real part, and then adding the imaginary parts, we'd have 7 total imaginary units here. So we'd say this would be our new complex number that was obtained by finding the difference of the original two complex numbers. Cheers.